everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome to another interview from the Saturday Expert Series. Super excited today because today's topic is really in line with what we're all facing in the current times. Um, because of what's happening around us, the second wave of COVID that's hitting us, we're all going from yellow to orange. Luckily, Samya's in the yellow zone, but the zones are changing. People are getting worried. There's so much chaos, especially closer to the holiday season. So, what could be a better topic than Mindfulness 101, right? So, today, to talk about this amazing topic, Mindfulness 101, the key to balance during chaotic times, I have a very special guest, Monica Jain, who's a physical therapist. She's an author, she's a mindfulness practitioner, as well as a holistic healer. So, welcome, Monica. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Manjari. Thank you for your kind words and giving me this wonderful opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's get started right to the topic. Everybody talks about being mindful, right? Like every podcast you'll hear, every interview that you watch, everybody talks about being mindful. But what exactly does it mean to be mindful?
That's such a beautiful point that you have put in, and it's such a great start to just understand the concept of being mindful in a very simple language. So, what is it happens, right? Our mind is sometimes so full that is like full. So, your mind is occupied by, I do have to do this thing, I have to do this thing. So, being mindful, that is just deleting one L, is being in the present moment. You are completely present in the present moment. It is as simple as that. And we all are in the present moment, but what happens is we are like 95% there. We are not connected fully. So, being mindful is you are connected to yourself, within you, and outside. So, what do you mean by within you? So, you are present with your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, and you are connected to what is happening externally, what situations, what challenges you are in, only in that particular moment. And you accept that moment as it is. There is no judgment, there is no denial, there is no ignorance, nothing. You completely accept the present moment as it is. So, being in the present moment, accepting the present moment is being mindful about any moment.
Mhm. That's such a wonderful thing, you talked about. Going to say a quick hi to Ashwini. She's here. So, hi, Ashwini. Hello from both of us. If you are watching this live, say a quick hi so I know you're here. If you have any questions for me or Monica today, will be more than help you out with the answers. So, such a beautiful explanation that being present, in the moment and having this non-judgmental approach, not judging. I think that's one of the hardest concepts, though, because as much as I like to say I'm mindful, I am someone who can often be very self critical, right? Or you want to excel in everything, and then you're not happy with where you are, or you're always looking at the shiny object syndrome, the next best thing, what's going to take you further, how can you do this better? And that way, there's a lot of judgment. So, is there any strategy to combat it?
Hmm. Such a beautiful point, right? That we all are there. Once we do one thing, we are on to the next thing. The cycle never ends. So, the most important thing is to take a mindfulness pause,
Mhm.
just to get connected to who you are from inside. Because in the busyness of today's life, we just forget, or unknowingly we neglect the to be list. We
Mhm.
are always on the go of like, okay, let me do this, let me get the kids ready, let me do this. And in that to do list, somehow we just lose our to be list.
Mhm.
So being mindful and just getting connected to yourself and prioritizing the to be list in our doing list can really, really help you to combat and just be present to the present moment. And when people talk so much about, what is there to be mindful, right? Why is it so important to be mindful? Because the most important thing is that if you are in the present moment, you are not being carried away in the past or in the future.
Mhm.
Because most of the time, and we do all do it unknowingly, that we hold on to our past for so long,
Mhm.
or we worry about our future so much that we kind of lose the importance of the present moment. And
Mhm.
to be very honest, that's the only reality we have.
Mhm.
If we take a mindfulness pause here and think about what do we have,
Mhm.
you and me can plan 100 different things after this live show, but is it going to happen? We don't know.
Yeah.
The only moment, the only moment that each of us here have is just this moment, the
Yeah.
moment when I am with you.
Yeah.
And if I'm completely present in this moment, then I will know how I feel from inside, and I'll
Mhm.
be 100% there.
Mhm.
And that comes with practice. Just reminding yourself over and over again, and to keep practicing it, you will be able to be in the present moment completely. And that would slow you down, not slow you down for the to do list, but slow you down to look inside, to
Mhm.
be present to your to be list.
Mhm. Beautiful, that's one real like truth, that the only reality that exists is the present moment. The past is already gone. The future is very uncertain, like we don't know. At least COVID has told us so much about uncertainty, like we have had all these plans, travel plans and all that, and suddenly it hits us that okay, we cannot carry on or make plans, but you just have to accept, be present, be in your body right now. And you also talked about to be list. I often talk about being versus doing, but I've never heard about a to be list. So if you would elaborate on that, that would be really fantastic for our listeners.
Sure. So, how I do personally, I would share my thing, and I'm sure everybody can modify according to their schedule. So, first thing in the morning, I set up an intention for the day,
Mhm.
and that intention can vary every single day. So, I create the intention for this morning. I had created the intention to get connected,
Mhm.
just to present to the connection. So,
Mhm.
whatever things I do during the day, I will make sure that everything filters through my connection, through the
Mhm.
intention of that. And that's the way. So, meaning that, okay, this is my intention for connection. So, today, when I'm talking to anybody, I will be present that am I really connected to that person or not?
Mhm.
Because, like, how many times we realize that we talk, and then, to be very honest, we don't even feel that. We would say thank you, we would say hello, we would be like, oh, how was your weekend? And did we even listen to the answer to what the
Yeah.
other person said?
Yeah.
And that's where the connection comes so important to me.
Mhm.
That when I'm talking to you, am I connected to you?
Mhm.
Am I listening to you? Am I listening to your concerns, your thoughts? And if
Mhm.
I have that intention set as mindfulness, it really makes me go through it.
Mhm.
And
That
it
is.
really brings that bonding together.
Mhm.
And we do it as a family. So whenever I'm like riding the kids to school, I would ask my son and daughter to create the intention for today. So
Mhm.
sometimes they would say, I want to be happy today. So I'm like, make sure you follow that intention all throughout the day. Even if your friends doesn't do something that you like, you chose the intention.
Mhm.
So that's just a practice to build up on, and it really creates the awareness, and it brings you back to be mindful of every moment.
That is so beautiful. Hi, Susan. So, if you are watching this live, let us know what's on your to be list for today. If you're watching this as a replay, put a hashtag as replay and let us know what's the one thing on your to be list. Like, what's your intention for today? So, my intention for today, I just said it right now, is to be present. So I am going to be present in everything that I do, because sometimes, as you said, you're busy, you're not really listening. Sometimes you're typing something, you're multitasking, so you're just finishing work or checking off those to-do lists without being, and no matter how much we intend, but sometimes life gets in the way, or there's so much chaos happening. where you tend to get past your good habits and fall back into the trap of the bad habits. That's what we see. So, for people who are dealing with a lot of chaos or chaotic life situations currently, because of the pandemic, loss of loved ones, what's your strategy to deal with it?
First, thank you for setting up that intention. That just shows that we all are coming together, and it's the accountability that when we share, we
Mhm.
become accountable to ourselves. So that's really powerful. And coming to the chaos question, who is not having chaos in today's life, right? That's like, no matter whether it's like, the chaos comes in different flavors. As with this whole pandemic era now, I'm saying everybody is having different kind of stressors in their lives. Working from home, not going outside, not connecting to the friends, not connecting to the loved ones. So the situations, the unexpected things, the unknowns, they are never going to change. And even if we didn't have pandemic, then also the ups and downs were always there in everybody's life.
Mhm.
So what is my personal strategy to handle the chaos? The most important thing is to bring awareness.
Mhm.
Have to get present to how you are handling the chaos. That's the number one thing. Because
Mhm.
if you are not present to yourself and you are just handling the chaos, being angry and being irritated, and you are getting things done, and everybody copes up to their stresses in their best ability.
Mhm.
Like they do as much as they can,
Mhm.
but then there is an emotional toll behind everything. And
Mhm.
that's what mindfulness helps us to do.
Mhm.
Mindfulness trains you to take the control of yourselves,
Mhm.
and it trains you to choose between react versus respond.
Mhm.
So nothing is going to change externally. The situations are and the challenges are the same,
Mhm.
but we can take the ownership and respond to the chaos. So, my first step would be to become aware.
Mhm.
How am I in this chaotic situation? Am I
Mhm.
anxious? Am I handling with peace? Am I getting irritated? Once you are aware about it, then accept it.
Mhm.
Accept it completely that okay, I am feeling a little anxious about this thing. So I'll say, like, it could be any situation. Like, yeah, yesterday when I was like ready to go and drop the kids, I was like, oh my god, it was just a busy morning, and then I had a flat tire, and I have my patient schedule, and everything looks so messed up. So first thing is, are you present? I was getting irritated. I was like about to yell at my kids that rush in the car and do all those things. So being present, okay, I am getting irritated, and then take a mindfulness pause.
Mhm.
Just taking a mindfulness pause opens up a whole different scenario. So what it does is, you have to do is take a deep breath, do a belly breathing. So all I practice is put one hand on the belly. If I'm in a situation where I can close my eyes, I would close my eyes. If I'm not in a situation, like, if you are in a meeting, or when there is a little aggressive argument that's going on, or something where you cannot just close your eyes, you can do it with even open eyes. So just focusing on the breath, and then taking a conscious deep breath,
Mhm.
just like that, brings you in a momentarily pause, and that pause is the transformation period. That pause reminds you to respond to the situation.
Mhm.
So far, I have never had any situation where there were not any options. You
Mhm.
always have a choice to react versus respond. And
Mhm.
when you react, you are reacting with your emotions. But
Mhm.
when you are responding, you are kind of putting everybody's perspective in mind, and then you respond with inner stability, which is peace and calmness and being grounded.
Mhm.
So awareness, mindfulness, pause with the breath, and then choose between react versus respond. Those are the three steps, and you will be able to face the chaos in a very different way.
Mhm. That is really empowering, that is really empowering to just accept, like, first be aware of the situation, then accept the situation, and then just choose a response rather than reaction. Now, for a few of our listeners, when we're sometimes we're not clear about responding versus reacting, though you've tried to describe it beautifully. So can you get a little bit more into the depths of react and response?
Sure. So I'll share like my personal example that would kind of, give a perspective about it. So when this COVID was happening, and as like, I have to go to the hospital, and that was like a really a panic mode when you have to be of service, but at the same time you are having so much of fears inside you that you are going to bring something home, and you have kids and family and everybody at home. So during that time, I could just like gather the courage, go to the hospital, treat my patients, and then come back. After like almost a month or month and a half, just decided to go to a grocery shop, and which was like 15 minutes away from our house. And I had to come back on time. I had like a Zoom settings for all the kids and everything. So I go, and within 5 minutes, as soon as I take the exit for the highway, I hit in a standstill traffic. The cars are literally not moving, and I could take a picture sitting in the car. It was that standstill. And my mind was like, oh my God, like, where are these people going in this lockdown? Everybody is like, has supposed to stay home, and this standstill traffic. And why I didn't check my traffic before? Like, what time am I going to reach home now? This is going to miss out. I should have not done this. And that constant inner critic was there in my mind.
Mhm,
And I could have just gone through that whole traffic reacting that way. And
mhm,
what would that do? That would increase my heart rate. That is going to increase my blood pressure. It's not going to move the traffic situation. It's nothing that I can do with the traffic situation. And
mhm,
tell me, how many of us get aggravated and sometimes we just react like honking to the other person? Or if there is a passenger in our car, we would start talking to them and saying that, see, these people, they don't know, blah, blah, blah. And we are just like reacting to
mhm,
ourselves.
mhm.
And who is the sufferer? We are the sufferer.
Yeah.
But if I have to, because of the mindfulness practices, I could shift from react to respond. So, moment I became aware of that emotion and feelings and sensations, I'm like, okay, I'm having this, accept it.
Mhm,
And think about, can I change the traffic situation? The answer would, of course, no. What can I have control of? I have control of my inner stability,
mhm,
my inner emotional balance. So, what I can do is I can practice some breathing exercise, I can listen to the music, I can call upon my friend, or simply be present to the nature.
mhm,
And that shift from react to respond, nobody else can feel it. But you yourself feel that you have the power to create the experience that you truly want to experience in midst of everything else that goes around. And
mhm,
that to me is the transformation. When you take that ownership, take that power, and create the experience that you truly want to experience.
mhm.
That's the difference between reacting
And
and responding. Like for example, and I'll share another example, like when you are coming from work and you already had a very busy day and something happened, and your manager or your colleague said something to you, and because you are an employee you couldn't get back to them, and you just kind of have all those feelings in you, and that resentment is there. And when you come home and you see that everywhere is mess and kids are not doing what they are supposed to do, you start yelling at them, you start getting irritated. So that is reacting.
mhm,
And when you practice mindfulness practices and when you are aware about the difference between react versus respond, you will take the ownership. You will put separately things compartment. Work is work, home is home, kids are kids, and be present to themselves.
Mhm.
And
No,
you can truly enjoy every moment if you respond to the situation. And at the end of the day, you will feel that, okay, I have the power to create my own experience.
yeah. No, that is a very beautiful example and really, well said that you have the choice to create your own experience, and often with all the stressing out, you're creating health issues, stress glands, they can keep firing. They will cause either a raise in blood pressure. They could cause so many other issues. We have emotional eaters, closet eaters, who binge through the night to just calm down. And that is what we see as reality. But the reality is, as you said, the mess is always going to be there. Kids are going to be kids, we are going to be us. So we have to take time and really kind of calm ourselves, be aware, and then look at situation from a different perspective. I'm going to take a quick look at the comments. So Susan is saying her intention is to calm myself. Life has been stressful lately. Yes, Susan, sadly, that's the case for everyone when it comes to stress, but make sure you're really, checking it with yourself throughout the day to calm yourself and have one strategy. The simple breathing technique that Monica shared with us is really good. One hand goes on the belly, you can just breathe deeply, close your eyes, and make sure you do it several times in the day. Make sure you're checking in with yourself, and if the stress is a little bit more, make sure you're also reaching out to somebody for support, friends, family, or even professionally. If you want to seek someone, for sure, you can do that. Hanka has a question. So she's asking, would you have any tips how to accept very difficult news, let's say regarding health? So often, people are diagnosed with certain like difficult conditions, or especially when it comes to health, or their loved ones are diagnosed with certain health conditions. So how would you respond to, or how would you accept difficult news, especially when it comes to health?
Thank you for bringing this point up. And I really appreciate that you brought this point because everybody is going through this in some way, like, personally or with the family or like, with their colleagues. And so whenever you get this news, I know it's hard, but one thing that really, really helps is accept the news without bringing judgment in the picture.
Mhm.
I repeat, accept the news without bringing judgment to the picture. So, no matter the news is, whether it is somebody got COVID or somebody is having some respiratory issues with the COVID, like, and anxiety comes in. And especially if you are like long distance, like recently we lost one of our uncle because of COVID. And when I got the news that he is suffering, immediately, because you are so many thousands of miles away, you start feeling that anxiety, you start
Mhm.
feeling that the fear and the panic comes up, and that is very, very normal. But don't let those emotions hijack you from the present moment. So
Mhm.
whenever the health news come, accept that news as if there is something behind it. Like, we don't know what it is, but just accept it. Okay, this is what I have. And now, if you need to like just take a pause, if you want to just practice some breathing exercise, just do that. Or sometimes, like a little walk helps. Let that sink in, and you will get the thoughts like, why me? Why
Mhm.
did this happen to me? Why life is so unfair to me?
Yeah.
Those are all the questions that comes.
Mhm.
And mindfulness doesn't take away those questions out of the equation.
Mhm.
They will come, but the key is to anchor yourself inside you.
Mhm.
For me, breath really works. So whenever I come across any sad news or any unexpected news or anything that I don't feel, I'm like, oh, what does this happen? The first thing I do is put a hand on the heart or put a hand on the belly, and I would just like literally breathe. If I can close my eyes, I will. If not, then there are some of the people, like some of my clients don't like the breathing, they don't like to close their eyes because they feel the moment they close their eyes, their thoughts are racing more and more. So in that scenario, you can choose other mindfulness anchors like doing a mindful movement, writing a gratitude journal, as Manjri said before, like talking to a friend, taking out help. There is always a solution to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you should always be aware how is your inner stability,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that you take care of that inner stability. And whatever news comes, there is always a message behind that news.
Mm-hmm.
Try to see beyond it. You cannot change the news, but you have the power to respond to that situation and operate it in the present moment.
Mm-hmm. No, that is again amazing. Like, I love this interview. Honestly, this is like really what I think everybody needs to hear right now, that, mindfulness doesn't always take the problems away, but it empowers you to respond rather than react and stress out and create this entire stress circle where you, or a stress loop where you go on and on about, triggering yourself into worry. I can see a few more people, watch us live. So if you're watching this live, please say a quick hi. Also, please say, what's your intention for the day. We were talking about the to be list. So what are you planning to be today? So please reply in the comments. Even Hanka, please let me know, what are you planning to be today. She's saying many thanks for the reply. So, Monica, you've talked
Right.
about breath and the mind connection. You talked about, okay, focus on your breathing, focus on your breathing. So, what exactly is the connection between breathing and our mind, and how does breathing help us be more mindful and calm the mind down?
Thank you for bringing that point, because once we know the science behind it, our intellectual brain just gets it. Like, no
Mhm,
matter how much I tell you that, oh, this is so powerful, this is so powerful, but if I don't say why, your brain is not going to digest it. Like, it's not going to take it. It's just a good problem to have, good to have that much of intellectual, right? So there is a vagus nerve. I'm not going to get too much into the technical terms, but I would
mhm,
explain it in a very simple language. So whenever we are doing the belly breathing or conscious deep breathing, what happens is that we are stimulating the parasympathetic fibers of the vagus nerve. So there are two things. One is the flight or fight mode, and one is the relaxed state. And when we do the belly breathing or any conscious deep breathing, it stimulates the parasympathetic fibers of the vagus nerve. And that gets the relaxation signal to the brain. And all the muscles and all the nerves gets that signal and it relaxes.
mhm,
That's how the brain and mind are connected to the breath.
mhm,
So just and practice it yourself and see what opens up,
mhm,
how this phenomenon works. And then the awareness part, sometimes if we just pay attention. For example, if I say that everybody pay attention to your neck muscles and shoulder muscles and just move them around a little bit like this,
mhm,
and now do it with the breathing and gently let them go, and you will experience that tension fading away.
mhm,
And that's exactly what breath does. And I use this a lot in my plan of care and the treatment with the patients when they are having so much of pain and they cannot do the exercise. And I try to coordinate the exercises with the breath, and it works phenomenal.
mhm,
It really relaxes all the muscles and it just brings down. And the other thing is, it gives you clarity when you
mhm,
are in a very stressful situation, and like you get that fogginess what to
mhm,
do,
mhm,
like, and at that time you want to make the decision, but how do you make the decision with clarity?
mhm,
That's what the breath would do. Like, for example, last December, my 7-year-old, he was just like running around in the house. He fell and he broke his like radius and ulna, the two forearm bones. And just in like 5 seconds, he's like, my bones are broken. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like at 7 o'clock at night, so me and my husband rushed him to the emergency room. And meanwhile, in the car ride, I told him to just put the hand on the belly and breathe, because in fracture, it hurts so much. and I am breathing myself so that I don't go into the panic mode. Having a little one, seeing the broken bones, like it's the panic is but normal. But how do you be grounded? How do you connect your breath to the brain when we
Mhm.
go to the emergency department? And meanwhile, I just called one of my friend who works at the ortho center, and she said take him to the ortho urgent care rather than the emergency, because there they have to call the pediatric emergency doctors and it's just going to take a while.
Mhm.
So we drive to another town with that broken arm, with so much in pain, to reach to the urgent care. And after, like, having done all the x-rays, and after like half an hour of evaluation, they say that unfortunately we cannot treat him here because he needs anesthesia and manipulation, and you need to take him to the emergency room.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
that little kid,
Yeah.
how do I, right? I mean, the breath was the only thing that saved us at that time.
Mhm.
And in that chaotic situation, anchor yourself, be grounded, and take the decisions with clarity. That's
Mhm.
the most important thing. So that's how the breath works.
Mhm. So thank you so much for sharing your personal story. And when it's time of great stress, that's when these tools work, right? And that's why you need to keep practicing ahead of time, so when there is some stress hitting us right in the face, we can calm ourselves. I'm going to go back to the comments. So Ninad is saying that we can calm ourselves by old orthodox method of counting backwards. Yeah, that works as well. So that is mindful, and that also deviates your brain because it takes time to count backwards. And definitely it helps, and breathing in out 100%. So thank you for your comment. I also have a question from Hanka. She said that there are many trainers about mindfulness these days. Some are very commercial. Would you have tips how to recognize a good experienced teacher?
So thank you, Hanka, for that wonderful question. And I think the tip is to, I would say, before even going to the teachers, just practice it yourself and see how much does it resonate with you.
Mhm.
There are a lot of apps available. There are like a lot of like resources available. And when you go to the teacher, when you talk to them, and when you practice mindfulness, the beauty is you will get connected.
Mhm.
Your intuition will tell you that this is the teacher that I really want to learn from. This is the
Mhm.
support that I'm looking for. And I'll share with Manjari like a lot of resources, and then she can forward it to you as well. I can email you, Manjari, and then you can forward all the resources where you can look upon which qualified teachers are there and which universities are like having all these teachers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hanka, feel free to reach out, and I'll make sure I direct all the information towards you as well. So yeah, but that's a great way that you have to ultimately connect with yourself. So that is the biggest practice you can develop, and getting a teacher is always good. I use an app called Calm, CALM. And usually, early morning when I wake up, I'll first start like with a 10-minute meditation. Sometimes earlier in the morning when you're going through your to do list, that's what comes to your mind as soon as you wake up. So it can be challenging to take your mind off that. So a guided meditation where somebody else is talking about something can really help focus, because you're focusing on the words and you're completely kind of being present with what the guidance has been given. So that's the way I follow, but I'll be more than happy to forward any other resources that Monica shares with us. uh,
And also, Hanka, like how Mantri was saying that she follows the app Headspace. There is another app like Calm Headspace also. There is an Insight Timer
yeah.
app, but to me personally, I just feel that I am reliable. I rely more on my inner work. Like
Okay.
the apps and everything becomes external to
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
how I started was I would write on a sticky note, breathe, and put it on the common places that I use
Oh.
it often, like my laptop screen, my shower mirror, like I even do on the steering wheel of the car. And I
Mhm.
made myself a commitment that every red light I'm going to breathe. So, how Manjri was saying that you have to practice it before the situation comes.
Mhm.
It's like the fire extinguisher, right? You don't practice the fire extinguisher when you have the real fire. If you know where your fire extinguisher is and if you know how to use it, then you feel more confident and calm.
Yeah.
It's the same with the mindfulness practices. So do them as often, just start doing them
Yeah.
and just see how they unfold. And if this is something that resonates with you, then my invitation would be highly to explore and go into the deep practices.
Mhm. I loved it when you said that breathe every red light. I've heard about sticky notes and posting them everywhere, and I've done that a couple of times, but that's a very good tip. So, for somebody who's traveling constantly, or even when you go about in the city to run errands, if you just focus to breathe when you're waiting in traffic or waiting in that red light, so just start breathing and just start focusing. And also another amazing point that you don't always have to rely on external sources, because sometimes the phone is not accessible, or the battery is draining out, you forgot to charge the phone, there could be other things, but when it's you, you're always going to be with yourself. So one big question we have is really good. So Ninad has a question that nowadays people take a lot of stress on their work, and then they switch to yoga meditation instead of going for medication. But is that a long time strategy to keep away from stress by attending training, or can we do it ourselves as we believe in our soul? Our ancestors didn't need apps or trainers, they were calm all the time, happy and composed. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yes, apps. And I also like that when she said nowadays people are taking a lot of stress.
Yeah,
That itself says that you have the power. If you have the choice to take a lot of stress, then you have the choice to put it down also.
yeah,
So, and I agree 100% that our ancestors didn't have all these trainers and apps and like how you just have to believe in your soul. But the most important thing is commitment.
yeah,
Whichever way you go, commit to yourself.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, don't bring guilt.
yeah,
If you said to yourself that I'm going to do 10 times today, then that's fine. Even if you do 8 times, think about that at least you did 8.
yeah,
Because in the beginning, you will fall off the wagon, but
yeah,
that's okay. And like till now, also, sometimes, I would question myself. I know so much and still I'm doing this.
yeah,
But well, that's how we learn and grow together.
yeah,
And that's where you build up the community. That's where you have your friends and your support system.
yeah.
Like I have given the permission to my kids to tell me when I'm reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids would come and say, Mom, you need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Like yesterday when I was like teaching Hindi to my daughter, and she had a test, and she in between she was like getting distracted and focused, like her focus was deviating, she was playing, and I'm like, Ria, what are you doing? And she's like, Mom, I'm training you to develop patience. I'm like, okay, like, you just don't know. And I'm like, okay, but just make sure that, we have the time awareness also. For now, this much patience is good. Now we have a test, so let's prepare and then go further.
Yeah,
So coming back, like, so just have the commitment to yourself and build up the community, like any friends, any trainers, any teachers, if you need the support system. And if you can do it on your own, and if you feel that you're progressing, that's even awesome.
yeah. So put a little bit my take on it, because we talk about ancestors, and one thing that traditionally, I belong to is Ayurveda, right? So in Ayurveda, we always talk about the dinacharya, the rutucharya, and
Hmm.
following a daily regimen, having a daily routine, right, is extremely important in de-stressing, because you're stabilizing your body. Your body knows you wake up at a certain time. Your body knows that you're doing either your nasya, or you're brushing your teeth, you're doing like oil pulling gandusha if you do that, or warm shower. Like everything is at a specific time. You set some time aside to study or meditate, so that builds into your routine as well. That routine gives a lot of stability to our body, right? And when we talk about stress, we live in a vata deranged world. We are all constantly on the go. So like yesterday I was in London, Ontario, which is an hour away. So there was an hour drive. I was getting some YouTube videos produced. So I was there for 4 hours and I had a meeting. Then I had to pick up a laptop, then drive back to the meeting. I had another client. So it was like really busy, back to back, back to back. But I was taking the time, and I didn't rush through it. So as soon as I picked up my laptop in the afternoon, I was like, okay, I need to sit down, eat, and just calm down. And that's what I did. But my morning is set in a way that it really helps me, right? So when you wake up at a time, when you meditate at a time, it really helps set that stability for your body, and then you're not stressing over unnecessary things. The other thing when it comes to work stress is the one thing that has completely changed my life is just radical acceptance, And I am, kapha, pitta, prakriti in Ayurveda. So kaphas are pretty laid back. So they are like last minute people. I am a procrastinator, is what I've told all my life. But rather than looking at myself as a procrastinator, I function the best if I read the material an hour before the exam. That's the way I've always been, like I'll study throughout in smaller things, but an hour, like I had the radio show today, an hour before I sat down to prepare and it went really well. So if I have an interview, if I have a recording, if I have something, I'll sit down, write an hour or two before, depending on my level of preparedness. Sometimes I have to sit for half the day if I'm teaching and if it's a new topic. But that is what I've recognized. So I'm not going to feel guilty about, oh, why didn't I do that 2 days ago, because I've recognized my style. This is just how I am. I accept it, and then I'm not judging myself and not stressing about it. So these are my two tips. If you build a routine, that will give you a lot of stability. And the second one, as Monica said, like awareness and acceptance. Even with mindfulness, you have to apply that to your own life, to your own nature, and really identify yourself. Yeah, so I hope that helps you. And we are almost at 12:13 p.m., which is a good time. And so thank you so much, Monica. This was really, really wonderful. I'm going to share the link to Monica's book. So she has a really amazing book called Healing the Heart Mindfully, a practical approach to holistic rehabilitation from cardiac surgery. So for people who had, any heart related surgeries, and you've been told to practice mindfulness and really meditate, and if you're confused about how to go about it, make sure you're purchasing a copy of this book, and that will give you a lot of tips on mindfulness. And I'm sure the tips would also help people even though you haven't had the surgery. I'm sure, it's like a lot of gems. And I have a copy of the book already, which was graciously gifted by Monica. So make sure, you buy the book and benefit from it. Any last words before we sign off, Monica?
Uh, Thank you. Just a quick recap about what we did. Like we did the mindfulness, the awareness,
Yeah,
taking the mindfulness pause,
yeah,
and always choosing from reacting to responding.
yeah.
And in the nutshell, if we can just follow these three steps and just be open to see how it unfolds.
Hmm.
Like this is coming from my personal experience, so I can say that with confidence. But I highly encourage and invite to all the viewers to just try it for themselves. And for any new habit to develop, give it time.
Hmm.
Practice it for 4 to 5 weeks and see the unfolding with an openness.
Hmm.
And always, whenever you want to develop a new habit, always make sure you attach it to the pre-programmed habit. That is one of the most important lessons that I learned. So for example, like we already are programmed to brush our teeth, to have lunch, to have our dinner. So if you want to do the practices, you can always hooked up to that as soon as I brush my teeth, I'm going to practice mindfulness breathing for 2 minutes, or
Wow.
before I eat my lunch, I'm going to do it for 2 minutes. So your brain doesn't have to remember anything extra. It's attached to the pre-programmed. So that's the only one thing that I would like to add on to it.
That's
Thank
an
you so much.
amazing. Thank you. That's an amazing tip. That is a really wonderful tip, that always, attach something to a pre-programmed. Yeah, I'm going to always stop. And I'm usually mindful, like I take distractions away when I'm eating because I really want to be able to digest the food. but that's like taking a few deep breaths, taking a pause before you eat, because setting that as a trigger is really fantastic. Again, thank you so much, Monica. It was truly a pleasure to have you. I'm sure we'll have you back for another interview in the new year. So thank you once again and have a
Thank you.
fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much. It was really good to have here.
Thanks.